Oh, when the saints go marching in, oh, how I want to be in that number.
Welcome from Mickey and myself yet again. I have to say, we are inundated, absolutely buried alive with not only questions, but all sorts of happenings, which I am sure you're all aware of, because of course it has been a roller coaster ride in the last few days. Not the least of which is the fact that Prince Philip has been transferred to St. Bart's from King Edward VII, because Prince Philip, I am informed by two separate sets of circles, has been beside himself with fury at what has been going on. And I would have said he had an apoplectic fit, but other people would call it an ITA, I think it's called, an ITA, something like that, an ischtemic transient or whatever. Anyway, I'm sure you all know what it is. It's where you get so angry that your blood pressure goes shooting up with dire consequences. So I only hope, for everybody's sake, that Prince Philip survives all of this. He is a wonderful man. He's been a wonderful consort. The people of this country have an awful lot to be grateful to Prince Philip for. And I, for one, am very cognizant of all of that, because I wrote a book about Prince Philip and the Queen's marriage called The Queen's Marriage. And I delved very deeply into Prince Philip's life and spoke to people who knew him very well. I've met him a few times, and he was absolutely divinely attractive. He and Sean Connery were the two most masculine men I have ever met. Just wonderfully divine. Anyway, one hopes he's going to be all right. I mean, I just struggle to understand, how it is that Harry and Meghan can be treating the world to this exhibition, and they are completely careless of the consequences to his family, to his country, and ultimately, I would suggest, to themselves. But of course, because they have been bombarding the world with their happenings recently, I'm afraid that I have been asked an awful lot of questions, and I'm going to answer them. I can't decide whether I am swimming in a sea of feces or I need to just adopt an entertained attitude to the whole thing. But you know, the problem is it's very difficult to be just entertained and not to have deeper feelings when so much is at stake. And I am not referring to the money that they are seeking to earn for themselves. I'm referring to everything else. So, first question, if I may. It's from Nomvula Delamini. And I should say at this point that the Delaminis are African princes. I know this to be a fact because one of them was a friend of my brother's. So this is a very interesting question from a black princess. Honestly, Meghan spent 18 months in the royal family. So what can she really say? She grabbed the prince's title and privilege and bolted. Well, got it in one. And I am very entertained, I have to tell you, when Meghan's playing of the colour card, which I suspect is going to clatter loud and clear via Oprah at the end of this week. That game they call time on by Africans and West Indians of colour and Americans of colour. Because, of course, as everybody who has any scruples, common sense, education, decency, and character will know, colour has nothing to do with it. She is simply monetizing the royal family for all their worth. Milk that cow, baby, as Mummy would have said, not mine, hers. So, yes, what do they have to say? What does Meghan have to say? Well, we are going to hear very, very soon all that she has to say. And I am sure it's going to be a diatribe of victimhood. Because you see, how is it that a D-list ensemble player can end up in the British royal family and not have been victimised, especially by the welcome she got from the British people, with most of us embracing her to our bosoms? That wasn't enough. Of course it wasn't enough, because we didn't realise we were dealing with a demi-goddess, or who knows, maybe by now she's been a goddess, but I'm sure this weekend she's going to be the victim par excellence, the paragon of victimhood. So, but I just thought, since I recognized the name, and you know, Africa has wonderful royal families, and wonderful aristocratic families, and wonderful middle-class people, and wonderful working and lower-class people, and penniless people. I've met many of them over the years. One of my oldest and greatest friends is a princess whose father was a king, an African king. I'm not going to say which one, but her family will know, because her children call me aunt, and my children called her and her husband aunt and uncle. So, next question. G. Walters. Have you seen the James Corden interview? I'm a young British girl and haven't been tricked, but do you think the Americans could be hoodwinked? Do I think the Americans could be hoodwinked? I think sensible Americans will not be hoodwinked. I think unsophisticated Americans who know nothing about anywhere except their own localities, and there are many people in America who only care about their locality, they can be hoodwinked. But I think anybody who actually has a brain in their head, the powers of reasoning, will actually question what is going on. This is not the only question or indeed observation on the subject, because Veronica Jean sent to say, 8 million have watched the Corden interview, 275,000 have liked the video, 7,500 disliked it, and the messages about it are glowing. I believe we are in the minority and they are going to pull this off. Well, of course, I have always said from the very outset when I was writing my book that it is quite possible that this is a hat trick that magician will pull out of her bag of tricks. And Harry will be along for the ride very willingly, because they really are an ideally suited couple. You know, what makes a perfectly matched couple isn't those who have their virtues in alliance, but those who have, whether their virtues are in alliance or not, as long as the virtues aren't very strong, their failings in alliance. And when those are in accord, it's a very, very powerful union. And I have to say, I think Harry and Meghan are perfectly matched. They are, as I've said before, Narcissus and ego. Id and ego, son superego, for those who don't speak French, without the superego, but a lot of pontification as if they have great superegos. And the whole interview with Corden was really rather interesting, because I have to say Harry comes across very well when he's not around Meghan, in my opinion. I know some people said they didn't think he did, but I actually think he comes across as hail fellow, well-met, likeable, down to earth. But some of our viewers have shared observations, such as the army officer and his wife in America, he's a Marine, who pointed out that Harry's assault course conduct was appalling. I didn't actually spot it, but evidently it is antithetical to the way a Marine should behave towards another Marine. They should always offer assistance, instead of which, okay, it was banter, it was entertainment, Harry was being made to look good. You know, God, look at how fit Harry is, and poor James Corden can't even put 3 feet in front of him, much less 1, and certainly not 2. And I get all of that it's entertainment. But other people have commented on the fact that it's been a massive bleating exercise. Bleating, you know. Oh, poor me, poor Meghan, you know. But also, what those of you who are not in what shall we say is the entertainment world may not realize is this whole thing is very highly monetized. And it's all about the bottom line. It's about bucks. It's about the fact that Corden is with CBS. This Oprah interview is being aired on CBS. There is a synchronicity. There is an collusion, shall we say, and that to assure the build-up. It's the Corden thing was not, as some people think, James Corden stepping on Oprah's toes. It is a carefully calibrated plan for Wellington's troops to come in, and then when things look as if they're going to really flag and Napoleon might stand a chance of victory, in comes Blucher to the rescue. And that is what it is. It is a PR. Don't kid yourself. And I know they are saying that Harry and Meghan didn't get paid. I believe that. I believe that. I'm absolutely sure they didn't get paid. Of course they didn't get paid. money never exchanged hands, no matter how far down the road you go. No. And I am an imbecile, and so are you. Yeah. I mean, honestly, whatever next, such a joke. So, next question. Charlene Bosiak. Lady C, can we talk about the absurdity of Meghan requesting a waffle maker for Archie for a Christmas present? It's more than painfully obvious that that was a gift for her, not for Archie. Even if the child loves waffles, it's not his holiday gifts that are supposed to be substituted to furnish his parents' kitchen with appliances, is it? Well, that's one way of looking at it, my dear. Definitely one way of looking at it. We all know that the royal family, and indeed many families, do not give super-duper Christmas presents. They give tokens. But an observation very well made. But of course, Harry was boasting. He's establishing at every turn that he is the monarch's grandson. And he also, in the Corden thing, at the very outset, establishes, well, I'm a prince and the royal family don't carry money on them. So just in case we'd forgotten he was a prince, just in case. And just in case we'd forgotten he was a member of the royal family. And of course, has to bring in his granny and his grandpa, because how else is he going to get it across that he is a very special person, well worth listening to, not because of his education, not because of his accomplishments, but because of his rank. Dodgy, dodgy, dodgy. Dodgy, dodgy, dodgy. I mean, it's very interesting how easy it is to dupe fools, but I have been delighted to see that it's not that easy to dupe people who think for themselves. So, yes, I think it was actually a bit of a joke, and I'm not saying a ha-ha joke either, that Harry boasts that they ask his grandmother for a waffle maker, and of course then he has to establish their woke green credentials, that Meghan is rustles up something every day. I mean, can you just see it? I mean, I can see it. I think it's how wonderful. The picture of absolute domesticity. Meghan gets out of bed, and I suppose after spending 3 hours putting on makeup and combing the hair of all of those Turkish virgins, she drifts downstairs to the kitchen. Or maybe they have a kitchen upstairs, as we do, because we have more than one kitchen. And she rustles up for breakfast, a very special organic treat. But Harry didn't even seem to know what the treat gets topped with, because he seemed to have some doubts as to whether it was X, Y, Z, A, B, or C, and therefore threw in the whole melange. Well, I tell you, I mean, but he does come across, I thought, very personably, and, I thought it was actually a very nice taster for the run-up to the Oprah, oh, we are such victims, because he's now established he's a wonderful, down-to-earth victim, because let's not forget that he was saying about how toxic the British press are. However, are the British press going to be any less toxic if you are the recipient living in LA, or Montecito, Timbuktu, Windsor? I mean, I just don't get that bit of it, that you remove yourself from the toxicity by changing country, quite forgetting, of course, that he had already admitted, as did she, that they were moving to achieve what they called financial independence. Well, they already have financial independence. So let's cut to the chase. They moved to make a shed load of money. And he's already admitted that. So everything else really is just, trying to remodel the mistake that they made by actually coming clean about one of their motives. And it's not that they were such victims, it's that they're so greedy. Don't tell anybody I said it. Just tell everybody. Now, next question from CMGNY22. Lady C, I love your YouTube videos. What do you think of the preview clips of Oprah's interview with Harry and Meghan? Thank you. I think they are brilliant. I think they are beautifully executed. I think there is a reason why Oprah has been the outstanding success that she is. I think it shows in the previews. I think we are dealing with two very canny people. Oprah, number one, and Meghan, number two, who has taken very good advice on how to monetize Harry's status. And I think that it is brilliantly executed. I think we need to give credit where it is due. You notice that Meghan said absolutely nothing in the previews that have come out so far. Harry, of course, the useful idiot, is leading the charge. I mean, I tell you, talk about completely unaware of the realities of a situation. But I suppose he's getting his rewards. Yes, I'm sure. And I know he's getting his payoffs. And so she, and you can bank on it, that all of this has been very carefully calculated. Because Oprah is very calculating, and so is Meghan. Now, in business, one should be considered. One should even calculate. But to be calculating to the extent that some people are, I do not regard that as a virtue. I regard that as a failing. And I don't care how many millions, billions, or trillions you make. It profiteth not a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul. And I, being sufficiently Christian to have understood that it does not behoove anybody to worship at the altar of mammon, will say, I think too much materialism is a very destructive thing. And certainly materialism on the scale that the Sussexes are displaying to the world is, and the consequences of their actions and the damage they are doing, not only to their reputation in Britain and the Commonwealth, but also to the royal family. If that is responsibility, introduce me to somebody with sterling virtues. Like, let me think who? Pol Pot? And on that note, let's see. Next question. Julie Sheehan. In my opinion, Oprah is harboring quite a good deal of bigotry towards the head of the institution of the Church of England. For decades, Oprah has been obsessed with this institution. If Oprah targeted the Saudi royal family as the head of their religious institution, we would have no trouble labeling her as a bigot and perhaps harboring racism as well. In my opinion, she is doing both towards the people of England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. I couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, let's cut to the chase. It will be very interesting to see whether mention is made of unconscious bias and whether Meghan's colour is brought into it. Because we need to remember that not only are the English people terribly racist, hence why we have people of colour as the Mayor of London, as the Chancellor of the Exchequer, we have various MPs, we have various members of the extended royal family as well as the actual royal family in the presence of Meghan. It is to accuse the British people of racism is rather like Michelle and Barack Obama berating the American people for being racist, despite the fact that he was voted in as president twice. Now, I'm not saying that there are not Americans who are not racist. And I'm not saying that there are not a few people in Britain who are not racist. What I am saying is that systemically, racism is not a factor the way it used to be in this country, and ever increasingly less so in the United States of America. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. Barack Obama was not elected by only black people. And I am deeply disturbed as a Jamaican who was brought up in a multi-racial world that the colour card is hovering over everybody's head, when the fact of the matter is, if you're a rotter, you don't deserve a free pass because of the colour of your skin. You are a rotter. It's as simple as that. But to be rather incisive with my answer, I have noticed in recent years that certain categories of people regard it as acceptable to use the prejudice that was once exerted at their expense as a bargaining chip to up their ante, improve their stake in the game to the detriment of fair play. And I have seen people of colour do it. We've all seen people of colour do it. So let's just not mess around and pretend that we haven't seen it. I have seen working class people made good do it. Oh, everybody's class prejudiced against me because I was working class. No, people don't like you because you are an ace something or the other. White racists don't do it now because they are quite rightly muzzled because it is completely unacceptable for them to be racist. Well, I've got news for you. In my opinion, it is completely unacceptable for everyone else to be racist. If Oprah uses the royal family's status against them to enhance her career televisionally, you could almost say that's fair game. That is the sort of thing that journalists do. She's aimed for Prince Charles and not got him. So she's now scraping the bottom of the barrel with the Sussexes. And would she do this with the Saudi Arabian royal family? Well, actually, I wouldn't be surprised if she would do it. I have to tell Miss Sheehan. Because my information is that the American government is shaping up to be extremely antagonistic towards the Saudi Arabian government. And there are all sorts of things afoot that we are seeing, to put it in a slightly obscure way, we are seeing the tips of icebergs. Now, I am not going to get involved with anything to do with the Saudi Arabian government and the American government. I'm not going to get caught in the middle of all of this by saying any more than the question would have possibly been better phrased if it had related to some other Muslim country, or say the state of Israel, which is sacrosanct and hands off in terms of criticism in America. Now, I am, as some of you might know, the great-granddaughter of somebody who was born a Jewess, Amy DePause. I'm very proud of my Jewish ancestry. So this has nothing to do with anything but the fact that there are certain categories of individual that seem to be off limits as recipients of prejudice, but other categories of individual that seem to be fair game for the targeting of prejudice. And yes, the British royal family comes in for targeting on many different grounds, but the one ground that I would say that they should not be targeted for is being colour prejudiced. And the fact of the matter is, you only need to look at Meghan to see the veracity of that statement. However, Meghan and Harry have very little story to tell if they have to say, we are greedy, we are spoilt, we didn't really want to be bothered to do the donkey work, we're leaving that to the Gloucesters and the Kents, the Wessexes and the Princess Royal and Princess Alexandra and the Cambridges. We're not going to bother with all of that sort of donkey work. I mean, we're far too important for that. We're going to save the world in LA. We're going to be Hollywood stars. And we are going to save the world. One drop of rubbish after another. And on that note, I will say thank you very much for listening. Thanks for your questions. Keep them coming in. And please like, subscribe, share, and whatever else it is. Sorry, I keep on forgetting. Oh dear. Oh dear. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell and share. Thank you very much, and do bear with me. My memory is appalling for certain things. Thanks. Mickey and I say goodbye. Mickey, you want to say goodbye? Vicky says she's chilling.